how we ended up between people's legs, but I'm going to go with it. Welcome back to Popcorn Politics. We're talking about a movie that used to be my favorite film of all time, still in my top five, Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. Not talked about among Nolan's sort of famous work. He's known more for The Dark Knight or Inception or Memento, sometimes Interstellar. But The Prestige is, in my opinion, easily his most underappreciated work, but also his best work. And joining me to talk about it is my friend Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Daniel, thanks for coming on again.
Hey, Dylan. So, I heard a really good lyric from a hip hop song today, and I wanted to tell it to you.
Oh boy, go ahead.
The lyric is 15 years taking prescriptions. Now a shrink like, I don't know, maybe get a kitten. And then it repeats on the hook, maybe get a kitten, like 2 or 3 times. I thought it was really cool. It's a good line.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
Yep.
So, The Prestige.
Uh-huh.
What, before I give my overall impressions, what were yours? Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Wow. Keep me in line, Dylan, because I'm accustomed to us doing our thing. So if I start using naughty words, ding a
Uh,
bell.
yep. I'll ding
Okay.
a bell.
If you hear like start
Uh,
to come out, you're like, Daniel. All right.
yeah, I've got my bell ready. Go ahead.
All right. I don't know, man. This is one of those movies like I watched a long time ago, probably 2006 when it came out, and remembering it, as a real good movie, a very profound movie. I wasn't quite as aware as I am now to understand how profound. It takes a while. Whereas there are some movies, a lot of movies that I obsessively will watch on repeat over and over and over again, like just deconstructing it. There are some movies where I'm like, I know there's a lot I can dig out of this, but I'm just not ready for it. So I plant it somewhere in the back of my subconscious files to blossom later. And this was one of them because I think this is the first time I've seen The Prestige since it came out. So for one, like I didn't look up IMDb whatever to begin with, but I was like, this looks very Christopher Nolan-ish right off the bat. And then, obviously it's a Christopher Nolan thing. And in my opinion, Christopher Nolan, we like to talk about the weird stuff whenever me and you were together and dealing with the occult and things like that, cerebral type stuff that goes beyond just average movie reviews. But I can pretty much tell you, if you see Christopher Nolan directing a movie, he has layers upon layers somewhere in a labyrinth with no string in all the movies that he does that are aspects of very cerebral, inner metaphysical type concepts.
Yeah.
Even the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, no, there absolutely are.
There,
Um,
there is not, in my opinion, there is not one single shot of any Christopher Nolan movie that you can't freeze frame and deconstruct all that stuff into some real Carl Jungian, Aleister Crowley-ish maybe, Metatron type stuff. And this is certainly one of them.
yeah. So, for me at least, I didn't fully appreciate The Prestige on first viewing. I thought, oh, this is neat, but it has a really weird ending. And then on second viewing, I appreciated the structure of it a lot more. Because at the beginning of the film, by the way, sorry, I should give the plot before I get into it. The Prestige is basically about these two obsessive dueling magicians trying to one up each other and basically trying to discover the other's secrets at the detriment to themselves and everyone around them. Um, but in the opening scene, Michael Caine sort of, and of course it's a Nolan movie because Michael Caine's in it,
I know.
but Michael Caine sort of talks about the structure of a magic act. I'm trying to remember the exact terms he
The,
used.
he uses the pledge,
The pledge, yes.
where the magician shows you something ordinary, the turn, where he makes something ordinary extraordinary, or makes something ordinary extraordinarily something happens to it, and then the prestige is the big payoff, which is it's back, because it's one thing to make something disappear, whoop-de-doo, but when you can bring something from a black hole back into existence, that's the prestige. And
Yes.
thank you, Christopher Nolan. May you continue to put Michael Caine in your movies, because just his presence in a movie. I mean, he's always playing Michael Caine, but I really like Michael Caine.
Yeah, no, Michael Caine's impossible not to like.
Yeah.
But sort of the structure of the movie is a magic act.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. Like not just the three act structure, but much like a magician where everything you need to figure out how he's doing it is laid out in front of you in plain view. But Nolan, much like a magician, kind of redirects you and distracts you from realizing the full breadth of the trick until the prestige, until the final act, when everything is revealed.
Yeah. Let's see, Alfred is Christian Bale's character, right? Yeah.
No. Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Sorry. I was thinking Alfred is. No, Alfred is Michael Caine's character. No.
yeah. No, Alfred is Christian Bale's in this one, and yeah, yeah.
It's. By the way, this is Christian Bale at his best. This might be his best performance
It's pretty.
because, full spoilers for the movie, to be able to pull off the twins, but but you don't know they're twins. You don't know there are two people.
Well, see, okay, that's what I was going to say. Since we're doing spoilers and everything, Alfred, the character, whenever I think at some point in the middle of the movie, when he explains to Sarah, his wife there, um, he says he shows her the bullet trick, the bullet catching trick, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's simple once you know it." He goes, "But simple doesn't always mean easy." And like at the beginning of the movie, the idea that okay, the big MacGuffin or whatever the hell is the transporting man, and how they keep trying to top, and how is Alfred doing that? And it is simple. It's been simple to do, much simpler than how Algier or whatever the hell Hugh Jackman's character's name, Angier,
I'll look it up.
Angier, Robert, yeah, Robert Angier, yeah. Um, he goes to extremes to try to replicate a very simple magic trick that is simple but not easy.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, he goes to such extremes as to call upon Nikola Tesla.
Right. Yeah. And another part of it, I mean, yeah, the whole movie, the way it is laid out, is very much like the three sequences of a magic trick. It's also, like the three phases of, I guess you would say, the path. Me and you were doing the 007 thing in the path of the wizard. So this kind of has that same thing in there, where it's the path of the apprentice, the magician, and the wizard, because those are three different things, right? You have the apprentice, the magician, the wizard, and then I would even go to a fourth, which is a sorcerer. I think all those are different, but I digress. So it's doing all that on those layers, but it's also a very cool Moby Dick story. It's a very cool Moby Dick story where you got Hugh Jackman's character Robert. I mean, tragically, dude, he loses his wife in the beginning. I mean, and that's a tragedy. He's got a legitimate bitch. Him and his fellow apprentice underneath the wizard Michael Caine, or the magician Michael Caine, they start off together as teammates, right? And one of them is committed to his wife, who is a part of the act, and one of them is committed to this unbeknownst twin brother. Okay,
By
so
the way, you meant Alfred, not Michael Caine, right?
right, dude, stop! You're gonna make my nose bleed, man. Alfred, Michael Caine, anyways, Jeremy Irons, where are you? Yeah, we get it, dude. Alfred, Batman, we get it.
So,
It's another day, dude. Anyway,
so in your Moby Dick analogy, what's the white whale?
the white whale for Robert Angier is basically, well, we'll get to it, but let me
Sorry.
back it up, okay? I'm answering the questions here. Damn it, you're the host. No, I mean, so he loses his wife, dude. He's got a legitimate fucking complaint. Okay, he didn't ring the bell. He's got a legitimate complaint.
So quickly.
It was a tragedy. And at the funeral, he's still in shock, and he looks at Christian Bale's character. He's like, "What knot did you tie, dude? Are you responsible for the death of my wife? I want an answer." And Christian Bale legitimately and honestly says, I don't know. Now, we got two men committed to their craft for different reasons. Okay. One is committed to this illusion that he's one guy when he's really two brothers. And this other guy was committed to his wife and now she's gone, right? So the Moby Dick aspect comes in with now Hugh Jackman's character is Captain Ahab, dude. He becomes Captain Ahab. And even the whole thing with him breaking his leg later when they're going back and forth is like I think a tip of the hat to Captain Ahab, where this guy just doesn't know when to quit. He's got an obsession, and he's willing to go to any length, including, as Michael Caine said, getting his hands dirty, okay, in order to get that white whale. And the white whale is like, it starts off as, I guess, recompense for the death of his wife, but then it turns into way more than that, which is he wants to consume any type of happiness or glory or success that Christian Bale's character achieves in life. And that's the white whale. He wants to destroy this other guy. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I think where the Moby Dick thing comes into it, is the quest for vengeance and the quest for recompense. And it feels good for a little bit until, shit gets real and bullets start blowing hands up and legs start getting broken and, things like that. So there's your Moby Dick story.
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciated about this movie. It's not your typical revenge story. It very well could have been based on the start. And honestly, I think that would have been compelling. But the regular revenge story is sort of twisted into this illusion almost. Because it's hard to know. I haven't watched it in a few weeks. It's hard to know which brother is there. Even on a second viewing, you have to notice really subtle ticks in Bale's performance. And
Well,
I think that puts a wrinkle in the revenge story.
Well, I think this is one of those movies that if there was a switch in your brain that you could hit and then redo something for the first time, like play a video game for the first time or see a movie for the first time or read a book for the first time again, like you could erase your memory of it. This is one of those that would be cool to do a few times because the at the time 2006, I mean Hugh Jackman his career was up there. But Christian Bale, I didn't really. I mean, maybe he was. I mean, I know he's always been, in the industry since Empire of the Sun or whatever it was when he was a kid. But I didn't know too much about Christian Bale before Batman. Me. So, I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that the caretaker of his daughter, like, I knew that it was some sub character, and I never stopped back then to go, who is that actor playing that part? But now, on the second watch, because I just watched it, an hour before we went on air, I was like, oh, dude, it's, obvious that it's Christian Bale on a second viewing. You know what I mean? So this is one of those movies where it's cool to watch it the second time to pick up on those things, like in Sixth Sense and movies like that, or Joker. But it'd be cool to flip that switch and go back and kind of experience it the first time, to be wowed, to be, like Hugh Jackman says at the end of it, it's the look on your face, whenever the Prestige is presented. So
yeah, I think this is really unlike a lot of movies in general, but also unlike many Nolan films. I think this is a movie that gets better on rewatch. I know I appreciated it a lot more when I watched it a few weeks ago than I did the first time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can go either way with it. And I picked up a lot more on this watch or this viewing than I did the first time, And a lot of it is the kind of, Nolan. I haven't really looked into Christopher Nolan, but I could tell you he's got a lot of occult knowledge. Nothing to be scared of. It just means hidden. I got my hands behind my back right now. They're occult. And that's what great storytelling is being able to suspend somebody's disbelief or the disbelief of the audience for a while, to give them an allegory or a parable or a story to teach us a deep spiritual truth, because that's what art is. That's why, kind of if you go to the fifth movie in any, what are those stupid movies about the people who race cars? Need for Speed or something? What is
Fast and
it?
Furious.
Fast and Furious. If you're like on, I don't even know how many of those movies there are. Like a lot. Like
8.
more. There's 8 of those movies?
Yep.
Okay. To my credit, I've never seen one of them. All right.
You're
Because,
not missing much, but they're fun little action beats.
all right, I'll save that for a different incarnation. But, I don't think I'm going to learn too much about Buddha or inner peace with them. Maybe I can. I'll just get to it later. But Christopher Nolan always has some very deep, introspective, uh, spiritual lessons wrapped up in the stories that he's telling. This is no exception to it. And the concept of him, one, making certain statements in this movie, like by Michael Caine, because we've entered into the world of stage magicians. Okay, that's where this story is welcomes us into the foyer. The foyer is into stage magicians. So everything is illusion. Everything is a prop. Everything is usable, and you have two apprentices that are using tangible physical objects to try to create the illusion of true magic, which is out there somewhere. So you got these two apprentices, and then they're being apprentices by a magician, which is Michael Caine. And then somewhere in the story, Michael Caine is telling, I think, the solicitor when he comes to see the box or whatever the prestige tool thing was. He says, "Oh, no, 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 this wasn't made by a magician. This was made by somebody who can use real magic, a wizard." So you got two apprentices under a magician who makes a reference that there is a level above a magician, which is somebody who isn't using props, doesn't need any physical tool kit or basically metaphysical props to do some awesome shit. And that would be a wizard, right? He makes that reference. So I think that Christopher Nolan is kind of nudging the audience to go, hey, this is a culture where the entranceway is stage magic, but it probably leads to other things. And then ultimately you get to, am I rambling or is this making sense? You following me, dude?
No, I'm following you.
Yeah.
Please keep going.
And so when you could, in my opinion, you would go to Tesla is the archetype of the wizard, because he's actually using physical objects and physical tools not to create the illusion of the harnessing of energy, which is what magic is. He's actually doing it. He's actually connecting these physical objects to source. It's not a sleight of hand. He's literally doing it. He's
Yeah.
making a light bulb light up without a wire connected to a generator. So he would be the archetype of the wizard. Okay.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm following you.
So you have that whole kind of thing going, which I would say if you were to look at like Wiccanism, which isn't witchcraft, Wiccanism's like from the fucking 40s by some dude who invented it. But anyway, they have this whole Trinity thing, the triple aspect of the goddess. You got the Virgin, the Maiden, the Crone, or whatever. Well, that's a feminine aspect of the different phases of somebody who would be into the metaphysical, which is, the Virgin. She's kind of naive, a little young, and she could do some stuff, and it's all great. And then she matures a little bit, maybe pops out a baby or two. I don't know, spiritually maybe, physically maybe, who knows? And she becomes the maiden, a little bit more experience. And then she becomes the crone, the old wise, very responsible, sometimes representation of the goddess divine. Well, in the masculine, you would do the same thing with an apprentice, magician, and then a wizard. And then, of course, there's always another level, which we won't get to, which is somebody even more powerful than a wizard who doesn't need physical objects whatsoever to tap into source. He does it just with his own biochemical and biological instrument, and we would call that person a sorcerer, which is the big daddy of that game of Magic the Gathering or whatever, you know what I'm saying. So Christopher Nolan's putting that right there. He's putting it right there in your face for the people who are there to see it. And when you mix that up with the Moby Dick story, well, where's it going to go?
Yeah. No, I didn't know that's where we were going, but
You knew it was
it's
me.
interesting. Yes. No, I
It was
did. That
me.
was you.
Yeah.
No, that is interesting. I don't know the story of the wizard. I don't know that path very well, but it sounds fairly accurate.
Yeah, we have potato chips. Join us.
Yes. So, I, just to show the level of attention to detail in sort of the writing of the story, I remember the line, I believe it was from Scarlett Johansson's character,
Uh,
um, to Bale. I'm really bad with names. Bale's character is named
Alfred Borden.
Alfred. Yes. Sorry, I'm really bad with names. She said, "Today's not one of the days you love me, is it?"
Right. Right.
It's one of. It's a small line on first viewing. It's probably a small line on second viewing too, to be honest.
Well,
But
yeah. And if you're a dude who's ever been in love, or a woman, you know that a couple has these cutesy little, things that they share. And when you watch it the first time, when it's like I don't know, The Magicians. I just wrapped up season 4, and Alice and Quinn have this thing where they. I'm not going to ruin it. This isn't a spoiler.
okay, good because I'm still watching that.
Not a spoiler. Where somebody makes a comment about before they go into metaphysical battle, they touch each other's butts with their fingertips or whatever, and that's like their thing. And Quentin is like, "How does she know our thing?" Well, the same thing goes with this movie because every couple who's genuinely in love have a thing, a little thing that's just between them, and it's oblivious to anybody else. When I first saw the movie, not knowing that the actual commitment on Alfred Borden's part was bigger than it was, oh, that's like one of those couple things. Like, oh, you don't love me today, or I do love you today. Or, you know what I mean? That's what I
Right.
thought the first time. But of course, on the second viewing, you realize that it's because Christian Bale, as the wise apprentice, is so committed to his craft above all else that even from his wife, he has concealed his dual identity. That is commitment. That's the commitment that they saw with the Chinese guy, who, in order to perform his illusion so magnificently, had to be absolutely committed to their craft in such a way that they wore it as a very well tailored person suit.
Right.
Even to the exclusivity of his soulmate did he protect his dual identity from her. That's how committed he was to his craft.
Yeah, and on a second viewing, it's really obvious how outclassed Hugh Jackman's character and Robert Angier is.
On a second viewing, on the first
Yeah,
viewing, you think that Christian Bale's a cunt.
shh,
You.
bad,
Oh no,
bad
that's
Daniel.
okay. That's not one of the seven deadlies, I don't think. But
I,
because you see him act very bipolarish, and you're like, this dude is a nutter. He killed Hugh Jackman's wife by accident. All right, but you in the first viewing, you totally empathize with Hugh Jackman's character. I did. I
and I
did.
mean, you still empathize with him, but it's clear how outclassed he is.
On the second viewing only, and
Yeah,
that's
on,
and that's
yeah,
and that's why I say I wish I had a switch, because that is the prestige. The prestige of this movie is that if you watch it the first time, you're rooting for Jackman, who is Captain Ahab, who is obsessed with his silly quest for vengeance of the white whale. That if you are only watching it the first time, you don't know it's ultimately going to take his ship and his crew and him too. Okay.
yeah. And on a second viewing, it's almost like watching a car crash. You you like Hugh Jackman a lot.
Mhm.
You want him to succeed, but you're just watching him go through the motions, thinking it's all going well, and just you're seeing Bale. You're seeing how Bale outclassed him so thoroughly
On
on that
Yeah,
second viewing.
on the second one, and that's even self-evident whenever Angier, Hugh Jackman's character, gets to the end of his journal in Colorado, and then the narration by Christian Bale is like, "Hey, asshole, I wrote this entire journal just to get you over to Colorado and out of England to go on a wild goose chase." That's commitment. It's also
Yeah,
it shows a lot of forethought way well in advance. And so you understand there was no way for Hugh Jackman to checkmate uh, Christian Bale's character at all.
No, you
on
thought
the
it was
second
a
viewing.
chess match, but only one person was playing chess.
There was only one person. It was a one-legged dude in an ass kissing contest, ass kicking contest, essentially. On the second viewing,
On the
you know.
second viewing. On the first viewing, it really is this epic a cat and mouse game.
Well, on the first viewing, you're like, this dude's a horrible husband because he's bipolar. On some days, he'll buy her a brand new house. On other days, he doesn't give two craps about her. He just wants to focus on his next act. Oh my God, he's cheating on his wife with Scarlett Johansson. This guy's a douchebag. This guy can't even take accountability for tying the wrong knot. What is up with this dude? I mean, but on the second viewing, and then you realize, okay, we're dealing with two different individuals who share a common craft and dedication to that craft. And so now that starts to make sense. Well, then with that perspective, you still empathize with Hugh Jackman. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he lost his wife, and that blows, dude. He deserves a pound of flesh for that, I think. And I think that he got his stupid pound of flesh when he shot the dude in the hand, and he should have left well enough
I
alone.
don't. Yeah, I mean, I still think even.
He should have left well enough alone, Dylan. Because here's what happens. The next scene, a few scenes later, when Scarlett's talking to him about it, and she's like, "Is this about your wife? Why you obsess about this man?" He goes, "This isn't about my wife at all." Okay, well, dude, and I believe that was a sincere line. I don't think that was like deflection. But when he said that, that's when you go on the second viewing. You go, "All right, Ahab, because if this isn't about your wife anymore, then what are you doing?" And then you start to see that spiral towards, the
Oh no.
villain thinking he's the hero.
Yeah, no. Hugh Jackman definitely spirals into madness, but what I'd also argue is there are no good guys here. Bale is not the hero of this story by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, Bale is so committed to his act that he lets Angier's wife die and doesn't come clean.
I
In
agree.
the face of all of this, he stays committed to the act, and he basically toys with Angier through the entire thing.
And I agree. And as we've been discussing in our thorough examination and decoding of the 007 movies, you have the journey of the hero, and then you have stories that are the journey of the wizard or the sorcerer. And this is the journey of dueling wizards. So there is no hero per se. However, you're looking at the difference between Sauron and Gandalf because they already did their hero stuff. So now it's like, okay, well, now you've done your hero stuff. Remember how we were talking about there are different roles that you can play on the monomyth or Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey Circle? We always focus on playing the hero's journey, but there are all
Yes.
these other characters, and people just get that's what reincarnation is, in my opinion, is hey, are you bored playing the hero's journey? Or, that role for a while? You want to play a different role? Because there's other roles you can play. That's what life is, one big video game. Taking it so seriously, don't panic. 42 potato chips, whatever. Anyway, so we're talking about a story that Nolan is utilizing in comparison to the Dark Knight trilogy. Because if you look at the Dark Knight trilogy, that is the hero's journey from beginning to end. I mean, even to the point where it's screaming in your face that in the third part, the hero is literally in the depths of the earth, right? At the bottom of the wheel, and he has to rise back up. So Christopher Nolan clearly sleeps on Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols and Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
No.
I'm glad you do, dude. Glad we're on the same page. Dylan, you're all right.
Yay! I'm all right. No. But
I declare Dylan Wade, he's all right.
yay! Yeah, I just need that applause. Yeah, soundtrack. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
But no, what? Oh, no, there are no heroes per se, but I mean, there's no good guy here. There's no good person in this story. That's what I meant by hero. Alfred is watching Angier dance in the palm of his hand and go crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Angier is spiraling into literal madness,
Yeah,
trying
and
to figure
guess,
it out.
guess who's getting more giggles out of it is Michael Caine's character Cutter. because he's the level above. He's watching his two apprentices go at it, right? And of course, a wise magician who is apprenticing, up and coming magicians, um, is if he's wise, he's not going to want the guy unbalanced in the fourfold nature to win out over the one who leans more towards the light. And so, even to figure out near the end of it that Cutter was always on the side of Bale's characters was like, you know, Jackman didn't have a chance, dude.
No.
The minute he started going down that road of vengeance, he didn't have a chance. And Michael Caine, being the wise magician, was like, all right, I know where I'm putting my chips.
Yeah, no. And Hugh Jackman is really, really good at playing that descent into madness. You totally buy it every step of the way.
Yeah, I love the independent stuff he does, like the Fountain stuff. I wish he would do more. And I thought that Pan didn't do too good at the box office or whatever, that I'm a huge Peter Pan fan. And I love Pan. And when they did that Smells Like Teen Spirit thing with all those kids, the Lost Boys or whatever, I wish they would have went with the whole song. That was epic, dude. Hugh Jackman,
Hugh Jackman is great. And the most I've seen him in, I've seen him in a couple other things, but my primary exposure to him, admittedly, has been the X-Men movies.
Yeah, of
and
course.
he's good as Wolverine. He's very good as Wolverine, but he disappears into this.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
this is a character movie. It really is, and both Bale and Jackman disappear.
well, okay. Another aspect of the yin and the yang of these two characters who are intertwined by fate is um, this aspect of, okay, and we'll tie it into, let's say the magic or the magical economy of Doctor Strange's stuff, which is, the bill always comes due for a magic spell, yada yada yada. And if we go with even stage magic, which is the level this movie lets us in on the escalator, it's like the Michael Caine makes a comment about, are you willing to get your hands dirty by killing these pigeons and stuff like that? If you're not willing to get your hands dirty, maybe you can't do real magic. You know what I mean? And so that's presented to Hugh Jackman's character. Well, earlier on, Christian Bale's character was working for a magician as his apprentice that was literally killing a little canary every time he did a magic act. You remember? And the little boy is like, oh, he killed him. And Christian Bale's like, oh, no, here he is. And he goes, no, that's his brother or whatever.
Yeah.
Remember that scene? So Christian Bale at an early stage of his career was willing to make these certain sacrifices, killing canaries or being a party to it. So sacrifice. He was willing to get his hands dirty with little canaries. But when it came to his coup de grace, his big prestige of the transporting man, he didn't have to kill anybody. He had figured out a way on his path as the magician to be able to come to perform a prestige or an illusion without the loss of life. Why? I guess because somewhere in there he gets a daughter, and that balances a dude out and makes him more sensitive to the preciousness of life, and you figure out a new way. Well, Hugh Jackman's character loses somebody, and he even found a way not to kill canaries with his act. But then when it gets to the big test, he's goes well beyond killing a frickin' canary to where he's literally, probably technically, after the Tesla toy, literally killing himself every time he performs this illusion. Literally.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? So he's willing to not only make sacrifice, but detrimental self-sacrifice of self-annihilation. And we don't get the real answer of, well, whenever Jackman's character does this illusion with the technology that Tesla, the sorcerer, gave him, or the wizard gave him, which one is the one that drowns and which one is the one that comes out? Because now we have a copy or a clone, okay, which is just as sentient and alive, but which one is the real one, And you never know. And we don't even get an answer at the end of it of which Jackman came out, You
Yeah.
there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
See what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we see both of them at some point in their evolution as magicians are willing to get their hands dirty, but Bale's characters, they go, okay, this is a little too far. You don't. Killing something to do this is just not necessary. Let's figure out a better way to do it to where it doesn't harm anybody. But Jackman, because of his obsession, his white whale on the horizon, he's willing to do the worst stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can pat him on the back. I mean, he went and found Tesla and spent a lot of money and was very patient and was very brave to do this illusion, but it caused a lot of agony, a lot of agony. And then
Yeah,
you know,
he does. He causes a lot of agony.
hmm yeah, man. And I like the idea of Tesla kind of Nolan bringing Tesla into the forefront. Hopefully, and it looks like it's true. When a lot of people saw this movie who'd never heard of Tesla, they went and looked him up and kind of saw that we already have the ability for free energy.
Can,
And go ahead.
can I just say it was really cool to see David Bowie playing Nikola Tesla?
Yeah, dude. I know, right?
That was really cool.
Yeah, dude. Looking Ziggy Stardust, right?
And it's the perfect role for him. It's just the type of weird and eccentric that he would go for.
Oh yeah, and that whole thing. I mean, and we're dealing with magic, and we're talking about the stages of magic, which is just basically sleight of hand stuff, cool little parlor tricks, that stage magicians
Hmm.
they do, up to actual. I mean, we're in a period piece, so it's the turn of the 19th century. And by the way, side note, I love period pieces, man, because it's nice to see like interaction amongst humans without a smartphone in everybody's hand.
I
You know what I
like
mean?
period pieces like this. I don't like period pieces that are like, oh, we're in the 1500s and look at this 1500s thing and look at
Yeah,
us being in the 1500s. We're going to talk like we're there. No, this is a good period
yeah.
piece.
What I'm saying is, I like any reprieve seeing humans interact without the current technology. Sometimes it's nice to remember what it's like to be a Homo sapien and like look each other in the eyes and actually have conversations and interact with your physical world without needing to get back to some screen so that you could keep the dopamine going over and over and over again. It's nice to remember that there was a time in human evolution where that happened.
Yeah.
You know, anywho,
But I mean, I really feel like this story could be told in any period.
I mean, I think the linchpin was the idea of Tesla, because, I mean,
Well, ultimately, Tesla, while relevant to the story, isn't super relevant to the story.
I disagree. I disagree because I think it makes a huge statement loaded with the rest of the story, which is, what Tesla's character said earlier when he's talking to Jack, when he says, a civilization can handle one major change at a time. He goes, I changed the world once, they all applauded. I tried to change the world a second time, and they asked me to retire. Okay, and if you look into the life of Tesla, I mean, dude, and I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I know conspiracies exist, but I got flowers to plant in my garden. We could talk about that another day. You know what I mean?
I mean,
But
most of the stuff we've done together has been debunking conspiracy theories.
not debunking. We're just shooting spitballs at them because they're ridiculous. Those people are ridiculous and they don't do anything anyway. So yada yada yada. They leave comments on YouTube channels, and that's great because spell my name right. But no, I think that it had to be with Tesla. It had to be in this time period because if you actually look at Tesla as a person in history, this dude, I mean, come on, dude, it would have blew you away if you saw a dude walking around with a light bulb lit up with no wires and stuff back then. You would have thought it was magic
Oh,
without
yeah.
without the proper gnosis or knowledge to understand. And what's even greater about this is, yeah, it would have been perceived as magic then, and it would still be perceived as magic today because of a poor fund of knowledge in the masses of how things work. Because once you understand how things work, it's not magic anymore. But what's cool about it is Tesla even says exactly how it works. He's like, "How are you doing this without a generator?" He goes, "I'm the generator. The human body is the generator of the energy."
No, and look, I'm not disputing the purpose in the overall themes. but Tesla's relevance to the narrative, while there, is minimal. I mean, the push of the story is the descent into madness from Hugh Jackman being basically allowed and pushed by Bale, kind of tricking him and dancing around him. That
Mm,
can exist in any time period, I would imagine.
mm, I see what you're saying. I mean, we could have wrote a character called Misanthrope and made him the Tesla character. But I do disagree with you on saying that Jackman descends into madness because I don't think that's accurate. I think what he descends into is pride and hubris.
Uh,
Not madness, just pride and hubris. Just, you know.
so here's why I say madness. It's precisely that line that is this about your wife? No, it's not about my wife. I mean, that line kind of, I mean, it's not the full thing, but the point being, he lost sight of his goal and became blinded by, he became blind. He became blinded by this desire to unravel Bale.
Yeah, obsession.
Yeah, but I mean, I would argue madness and obsession are kind of right next to each other.
All right, well, this is what I mean, honestly, dude, I mean, they had some cool back and forth that escalated. But if I were Jackman, and the night that I tried to pull my big show, Bale's character takes over my stage and just totally screws everything up and is like, my magic, the magic I got is way too much for the stage across the street. It had to overflow over here. If I were Jackman and he pulled that mess on me, that cool one up, I'd have been like, all right, I'm done. This quest is over because I would have tipped my hat to Bale. You know what I mean? Know when you're
Yeah.
beat. Know when you're beat. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and that's the point. His hubris, obsession, and desire to unravel Bale kind of drove him into madness, I would say.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a form. I mean, pride and hubris is a form of madness. I see what you're saying. I would just
Yeah,
accentuate pride and hubris.
yeah, definitely pride and hubris, and very much misplaced pride and hubris.
Yeah, man. And so, one thing I was like a little off about was, and I get why they did it, but it was like, yeah, dude, we know that the Christian Bale that's in jail is like the more aggressive brother of the two, the one that wasn't in love with Sarah, the one that was in love with Scarlett Johansson. We know that.
Yeah.
So we ultimately know he's the one that went to the gallows. So the purest of the two twins is the one that ultimately gets to see the final curtain call for Hugh Jackman's character. After they hang his brother, since nobody ever knew, due to his commitment of his dual identity, who they're going to peg the murder of Hugh Jackman's character on? A dead man? So it's like, dude, it was almost poetic justice because remember the drunk look-alike that Hugh Jackman had earlier. The bug that was put in his ear was, well, dude, you're the prestige of his act. You have total power over him now. And ultimately, Jackman gives that power to Christian Bale's character by allowing his brother to get hanged. Did you see that?
Oh, that is an interesting way to frame it.
I mean, dude, it's there. It's staring you in the face on the second view.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Bale takes up the opportunity to put a slug in his gut and basically, be the one right there to prove unequivocally that, dude, you think you're so slick. You went through all of this stupid trouble. You went around halfway around the world and found a wizard Tesla to make this machine for you to pull this big trick to get your vengeance. And there you are on the floor, are all bleeding and defecating yourself and gurgling. So what do you got, dude? What do you got? What's your last words? Is going to be some redeeming thing? Oh, it's that. In all honesty, it was pride and hubris because you were just trying to get the biggest look of awe and amazement from the audience faces because that's what pride and hubris makes you want. Outside validation of others and applaud from others when it's you that's always temporary if it's based off of obsession or some stupid crap like that because it's inauthentic.
yeah.
So that's why you're a butthole laying on the ground. And another reason you're a butthole is because there's a lot of tanks around us right now with clones of you dead. So it also says something about the psychology of somebody who goes through the process of these types of things. Is, somebody who gets into metaphysics or trying to open it up into that doorway, if they follow the path of the dark, or they follow the path of obsession and ill intent into true magic, into true wizardry and sorcery, then ultimately what's going to happen is they are going to fracture, like dissociative identity disorder, into several different copies, like a broken mirror, right? Which is kind of where he dies ultimately, is surrounded by copies of himself that had a very short-lived life. So
Yeah.
it's almost, if you zoom out and you have enough cannabis in your system, it looks like what PTSD would do to the human brain. Split the ego into several different compartments, and they're all in agony. They're all drowning. So it's brilliant, brilliant imagery that Christopher Nolan uses to talk about multiple different concepts besides the three stages of a stupid magic trick. He's
Yeah.
talking about, and that's typical Nolan, you know.
Yeah. No, Nolan stacks layer upon layer. And more credit to Nolan. I mean, to make the whole twin gimmick
Yeah,
work,
worked it.
because uh, having a twin is kind of a cop out in stories like this. It usually feels like, oh, the writer didn't know how to get out of this, so he
Yeah,
made up a twin.
yeah,
But
cheap way out.
yeah, but it doesn't feel that way here. It feels
Mm-mm.
earned. It feels like this was the only way it could have gone.
Yeah, and the best part about it, I thought the best line went to Michael Caine whenever Jackman and they get the box and he's going to put it down with the rest of his stuff before Bale undoes him finally. Is Michael Caine says, "Do you remember when I told you?" I got to practice my Michael Caine, so I'm not going to try.
Bad.
Yeah, it was
Bell.
pretty bad. He says, "Do you remember when I told you what it was like to drown?" And Jackman goes, "Yes, you told me it was like going home." And Kane goes, "I lied. He said it was agony. Just to let him know, you asshole. It's agony. Your wife died in agony, and all your clones died in agony too, you butthole." you know? And only Michael Caine could have delivered that one. You know, I thought
Yes.
I thought it was pretty cool.
No, it really is a great story. We only have a couple of minutes left, like 7. Do you have any final thoughts on the movie?
Awesome movie. Those guys are awesome. Christopher Nolan's awesome. Movies are awesome. Stories are awesome. On every level, there's always something to learn about yourself. If you don't learn something about yourself when you watch a movie, you wasted your time. You made the movie theater a lot of money on popcorn, but not right now because we're in a quarantine and nobody's seen a movie ever again, clearly. So
Uh,
there's that.
Well, and they're talking about releasing a bunch of Nolan films back in theaters
Oh,
to
yeah.
sort of lead into Tenet.
Yeah,
I'm kind of hoping The Prestige is one of them because
Tenant's going to be great.
Tenet's going to be amazing.
Right.
But but I mean, I really hope The Prestige is one of them because to see this on the big screen again for the first time for me
Yeah,
would be amazing. This movie is not necessary big screen viewing, but man, it would be nice.
it would be nice. I didn't get to see it in the theaters either because Nolan wasn't on my radar in 2006. So I didn't see it in theaters, but I'd love to. It'd be great.
No,
Uh,
Nolan didn't get on my radar until Interstellar.
oh, we got to do that one day too. Really?
Interstellar is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know, where does The Prestige rank for you among Nolan's movies? Is it one of his better movies? Is it somewhere in the middle?
If you would have asked me before we did this show, i.e., before I gave it a second watch, I would have said it was probably, on a scale from 1 to 6, it was maybe a 5 or a 6, somewhere in there. I can't honestly give you an answer right now where it's at now. It's certainly moved because upon the second viewing and then us kind of brainstorming it together, I'm going to have to reevaluate where it's going to go. Because honestly, I thought that one of the most deeply encoded and spiritual things that he did was the Dark Knight trilogy because it's there, and if you don't see it, I don't know, I got nothing for you, But anywho, so I'm gonna have to reevaluate and get back to you on where I rank it now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I said at the beginning, this is, in my opinion, Nolan's finest work.
Well, he's got Scarlett Johansson in it, so I ain't complaining.
I mean, but I mean, there is something to that. This cast that he's assembled is brilliant. Um, the performances are fantastic. The writing is so layered. The structure of it is unique, but not unusual. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I even like the I forget the character's name because he's just a walk-on character, but it's the same actor that plays Moriarty from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I was like,
Oh,
that's awesome, it's Moriarty. Like in the
and
back, he's in the shadows of London even today.
you
So
mean
maybe,
Sherlock, not Star Trek?
no, he plays Moriarty in Star Trek: Next Generation.
Oh, I didn't know there was a character named Moriarty in Star
Yes,
Trek.
he's a holodeck character that Data, whenever he goes to the holodeck, is Sherlock, and this character becomes self-aware and sentient, a hologram, and it's Moriarty.
Ah,
Anyway, long story. But
by,
anyway,
by
so
the by the way, did you know Andy Serkis was in this?
I was gonna say something about Andy Serkis earlier. I was like, yeah, dude. Whenever I see him, I know he got real big with Golem, but it's like even without CGI, that dude is an Oscar-worthy actor.
No, the dude's incredibly talented.
I'm
I
saying,
I didn't fully appreciate him until the Planet of the Apes trilogy because his Caesar is one of my favorite film characters, period.
oh yeah, dude.
But he has a very small role in this, but it's a really good one.
Yeah, I love him and
So,
everything he does, man.
yeah. So, with our last couple of minutes, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you? I know you just relaunched your website.
Yeah, man. We just relaunched ZenInTheCar.com on Father's Day, and it's gotten a lot of traction already. People can go to ZenInTheCar.com and they can hook up to our Facebook, to our Twitter, to our YouTube channel, to our Instagram. And the website it looks good on a desktop, but it's also designed for smartphones while you're in the car. Hence, Zen in the Car. So you can actually go to the site while you're driving down the road. And if you don't want to read an article, you can listen to the audio versions of the article. And we also have assembled several different themed playlists on Spotify, which you'll see that if you scroll all the way down, you'll see clickable buttons that'll take you to themed playlists that are on Spotify. You just follow us on Spotify. If you feel like heavy metal one day, you got a list, a playlist that the team put together for that. And you know, there's 420. And whenever you're smoking your medical cannabis from CannaSense, and you can hit that playlist. So the website's pretty geared towards people who are traveling to listen to cool articles and listen to cool music and see some cool stuff on all the other social whatevers. So it's real
Yes.
integrated that way. We're going to be doing, all the stuff me and you've been doing and the other guys who are getting together. We're going to be doing a, podcast stream, which should be coming out, I don't know, about a month, maybe. So all the back stuff that you and I are doing, and me and Bree are doing, and me and Dave are doing, that'll be on there. And that'll shoot out to everywhere, all your Spotify's and your Stitchers and your iTunes and all that good stuff. So the site it's good on a desktop. It's great on a desktop if you're at work and your boss ain't looking and you want to giggle about some stuff or whatever, be irreverent towards everything. That's great. But if you're in the car, the website takes on a completely different evolution. So you can find me there.
Yes.
And of course, you can with the CannaSense Total Wellness Collective, as everybody knows, and we are very proud to now be offering scholarships. We do scholarships for 4 essays, 500 words or less every month. You can go to getcannasense.com and follow the links there. Go to cannasense.com and click on the wellness centers, and you'll be given all the instructions on how to submit for a college scholarship. We're actually selecting winners on July 1st, and I get to be one of the guys who reads the essays, which is an honor and a privilege. Also, the CannaSense Foundation is donating money to food banks in New Jersey, Florida, and Arizona, and we're going to be doing more stuff like that every month. So, anybody out there who suffers from addiction or any kind of emotional or, cancer, anything like that, go to getcannasense.com. Take a look at our model, hit that live chat button in the bottom. You'll talk to one of our caregivers, and we'll help you out there in all 50 states. Medical cannabis access lawfully. So you can find me there, and you can find me on the Facebook.
Yep.
And
All right.
yeah.
Daniel, thanks for coming on. We just launched the Popcorn Politics YouTube channel. You can subscribe there, or tune in next week where we will be talking about Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
With Jeffrey Matt. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm gonna overtalk you, dude. I'm not gonna let you end your show. We're gonna keep
Stay
going at
tuned.
overtime. No,
Stay
dude.
tuned.
I don't want to go. I don't want to let for our lives to be over.
Stay tuned. Claire?